Hello guys, this is Modest Major here, bringing you some commentary over some Halo 5 gameplay. This is BTB that you are seeing. This was actually from a live commentary that I just recorded, but unfortunately my microphone was being a little bit frustrating, picking up background audio and just being overall lame. And I don't want to bring subpar audio quality to my channel, so I've decided to just do this as a straight up gameplay commentary. And the gameplay in the background actually turned out to be a pretty decent one. I have been struggling in Halo 5 since I've been playing again the last few days. My aim is probably the worst that it's been in the last 10 or so years. It is pretty tragic. The rust needs to be shaken off right now. But nonetheless, hope you guys enjoy that one. It's pretty aggressive, and I actually cap a flag in it, which is something you will not see regularly from the scumbag Modest Major. But today I kind of wanted to do an update on the current status of Halo 5 and talk more directly about the upcoming Memories of Halo Reach DLC. Now this DLC has been one that's been pretty heavily anticipated by the Halo community at large. Reach is one of the more celebrated games by die-hard modern Halo fans, I would say. A lot of people found their footing in Halo Reach, which RIP those guys, because I'm not going to lie, starting with that one wouldn't be my idea of a good time. But nonetheless, you know, I might dislike Halo Reach in quite a few ways, but I do actually think Halo Reach had some of the better bells and whistles of any Halo title to date. Whilst I didn't really get on with the core gameplay per se, I do think it had some really neat additions in terms of the weapon sandbox, in terms of game modes like Invasion. Invasion's actually probably one of my favourite Halo game types in Halo history. You know, I think I vastly preferred it over Big Team Battle, where the objective and the game type can get a little bit static for me in terms of just killing people on some big open battlefield. With Invasion, you have this objective to it. It felt like you've got these really cinematic moments where you'd be carrying the bomb to the base, and someone would jetpack down from the sky. And it would just be chaos, and you'd have these set pieces. The maps that they picked for it were actually phenomenal as well. Maps like Spire, maps like Boneyard, they just seem to work so well in conjunction with the game type. And I also think it was the one time that the armor abilities didn't actually get under my skin in a major way. You know, armor abilities like Jetpack and Armor Lock, even Armor Lock, you know, armor locking just before a vehicle would hit you. In a 4v4 game type, stuff like that is mind-bogglingly frustrating, but in this bigger setting of Invasion, you could kind of get over it a little bit, and even though it was cheesy, it could have these, you know, once-in-a-lifetime moments where the stars aligned and something crazy happened. So seeing that there was going to be this Halo Reach callback DLC actually got me darn excited, and I thought, you know, with the Halo 5 abilities, you know, if we got a map like Spire, imagine ground pounding off the top of that stuff, or ground pounding onto a Falcon and landing it, boarding it. Stuff like that would be really exciting to see in the Halo 5 sandbox. I think when you merge gameplay mechanics of one Halo game with another, it can only be a good thing, a beautiful thing to see it make its return. And unfortunately, in my opinion, you know, we've just seen the recent reveal of the additions that we're going to get from Halo Reach, and I personally am not particularly thrilled with them. So obviously, of course, at first we saw Infection. Infection was one of the more popular game types in Halo Reach. For me, it's more of a Halo 3 archetype, though, I must admit. You know, when I think Infection, I think Sandtrap, I think Gravity Hammers, I think going crazy. And whilst it was most assuredly popular in Halo Reach, you know, it did originate as far back as Halo 2, so it was a little bit surprising to me, but I thought, you know, I can let that slide. We're probably going to see a bunch more Halo Reach content. But then, because of this addition of Infection, that actually meant that we're not getting a Warzone map. You know, in some of the previous DLCs, you would get a 4v4 map and a Warzone map. But because of Infection, they saw that as taking precedent over the need or the necessity for a Warzone edition. You know, in one of them we saw Battle of Noctis, and I think it was Riptide. But it looks like we're not seeing that this month, which is a shame because I thought this would be one of the more substantial content updates. And then when it comes to weapons, instead of seeing the grenade launcher, it looks like we're going to be seeing the Brute Plasma Rifle. And to me, that's a pretty shocking disappointment, you know. Whereas it's a little bit of a debate which game you might associate Infection with, I think Brute Plasma Rifles are most certainly not associated with Halo Reach, most likely Halo 2, where we first saw the inclusion of them. Brutes were a pretty pivotal member of that campaign. You could maybe associate it with Halo 3, but Halo Reach, I'm not even sure if Brutes made an appearance. If so, it was very minor, because I don't actually remember their appearance or inclusion in Halo Reach. But I'm not the biggest campaign buff, so someone can scream at me in the comments if they feel the need. Then on top of that, we saw George's chain turret make an appearance. I personally would have liked to see some of the other Spartans' weaponry, such as Emil's shotgun or Jun's sniper rifle. I don't think it would have been too much to ask for in terms of, just buff the damage a little bit, give it a little bit of a flair in terms of its aesthetics, but, you can make most of the properties similar to the actual real weapon counterpart. But unfortunately, it looks like we're only seeing George's chain turret. For me, that's one of the lesser Spartan weapons that I would have been excited to try out. But I suppose that's bias. I'm not much of a chain gun turret myself. Whenever I pick those up, I just get killed instantaneously and look like an idiot. Or I'm ending up killing quad screeners who carry chain turrets. Rip the quad screen dream, Halo 5. But nonetheless, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this new update. The one thing I would say is I just don't know how good a job it's doing of celebrating Halo Reach, of bringing back these Halo Reach calling cards to be specific. And I don't think the fact that these DLCs are monthly should be an excuse to have kind of disappointing installments every so often. I know we have had our good ones. I did think that the Battle of Noctis content update was a pretty decent one for the most part, although it was a bit frustrating that we got a Warzone Assault variant as well, and that counted as its own DLC slot. But there have been good ones, but to have the Reach one be a disappointing one when Reach is such a beloved game by the community, and just being able to go onto the subreddit and see stuff like a grenade launcher clip, or see stuff like a Falcon clip, and just have that throwback and have the two sandboxes of Halo 5 and Halo Reach intertwined in just those small moments. I wasn't expecting a miracle. I did expect something a little bit smaller, but to be quite honest with you, I think this was kind of a worst case scenario in terms of what you actually got out of this DLC. Unless they've got surprises in store for us, they could potentially have some Forge editions on top of that. I think that would be the icing in the cake, and I think it would make a lot of people less frustrated. Because right now I do think that in terms of 4v4 matchmaking, Halo 5 has got a little bit of a problem in terms of a lack of maps, or a lack of, beloved maps, I guess, from the community. We saw Unicheck tweet the other day that there are something like 32 additions from the Forge sandbox into matchmaking, but they mostly reside in playlists like BTB, Griffball, and Breakout. And whilst I do think they are most assuredly, important additions, I'm not trying to detract from them. It would be nice to see the 4v4 covered as well, especially as Halo 5 seems that 343 seem to be targeting 4v4 quite heavily in terms of their esports campaign, in terms of all these teams that are competing for these large amounts of money, in terms of these compendiums. It seems like it would have made sense to have a couple more 4v4 maps, and I was kind of hoping for maybe something like Zealot to be remade. I don't think we know too much about the new 4v4 maps that's going to be appearing, but I'm not even sure if it's a Reach remake, to be honest. Someone can correct me in the comments if they know for sure, but as far as I've seen, I'm not too sure on that one. But, seeing something like Spire, that would have been cool even, or the Falcon, or a grenade launcher. But instead, it looks like we're getting a fairly basic list of options. And, the second people saw, when they originally released what the DLC calendar was looking like, people saw Reach from a mile away, the memories of Reach, and were instantly speculating, instantly hyped. And it kind of feels like 343 have ignored their pleas and ignored their, hype, which I definitely don't think that's something that should happen. Do stuff like enlist the community for Forge efforts, for example. Back in Halo 4 we saw Salah making maps like Simplex, which was one of the more beloved maps of competitive Halo 4. And I think they're kind of overlooking that aspect right there of just community interaction and back and forth. I don't want to come across too negative. I mean, I obviously do love the core gameplay of Halo 5 so much, but that's why I want to see it be taken further, and I think there's such easy steps to do that, you know, adding just a little bit more content in certain areas, specifically 4v4, and just seeing more of a callback to Halo Reach in this big Halo Reach DLC would have been a little bit nice. But hopefully I'll be proven wrong in some way. Hopefully they've got something special in the cards, and hopefully Infection will be so much of a blast that I won't even be frustrated about this. But nonetheless, I've been Modest Major. I hope you guys enjoyed this little BTB commentary. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Peace out.